Hello and Happy New Year to everybody. Welcome to the first show of 2024, the AA Team live stream. I'm your host, Steve Nagishi, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Ken Fang. Ken, how you doing?
Happy New Year, Stephen. Happy New Year to everybody. We weren't on for the last couple of weeks because we were both had various ailments. I had the stomach flu a couple of weeks ago. Stephen was not feeling well last week, but
Yeah.
maybe it was good that we did that. We're back in for 2024, and we're happy that you're with us. We are live. You can join us through the X or Twitter, whatever we're calling it these days,
Yeah.
and also YouTube. And your tweets actually now can appear on our screen. So you have any interesting remarks for us, keep them clean, of course. And we'll be very happy to have them on and very happy to respond to you. So if you have any questions for us here during our first stream of 2020, glad to be on with you.
Absolutely, and I'm actually still dealing with a bit of a phlegm, so I'm going to cough a little here and there, and I'm going to do my best to mute, especially it's a nasty stuff. So I'm going to do my best to mute the while we're talking, and certainly for us, we're very very thankful to having been done this for. Live stream we're starting sometime around last year, and and then we did a podcast, and now we transitioned into live stream. And our goal this year is certainly bring more guests, with or without one of us, regardless of whether both of us are still on air or not. So we definitely would like to have more guests like we used to in the past, to get more engagements and learn more about the guests, whether it's the blogger, an author, or somebody who work in the industry. Especially Asian people, and even also non-Asians. Who are perhaps be kind enough to give us a finer points and advice on breaking into the sporting industry. And so that's our main objective and main goals for 2024. And we're very very thankful that you are kind enough to stick around with us for the last year and a half or so, and we hope that this upcoming year will be an exciting show for both of us, Ken and I, to continue doing what we always wanted to do, and also bring in more guests, and also have more viewers engage in our conversation moving forward.
Absolutely. And, as we've done, I can't believe we've done this for about 2 years, Stephen, almost 2 years and a half.
It is, yes. We originally started with the Aldo Gandia and the Chicago-based the Barroom Network and their YouTube channel back in October of around, I think, 2021.
Yes.
And then from that point on, we've been doing solo, and we've been transitioning to live stream, and we're very very excited. For me, mostly I've been able to do a lot of Bears related content with Rashab Shakiri, who has his very popular YouTube channel, The Windy City Productions. And Rashab and I will continue to focus on doing the Bears related content, and Ken and I will certainly do a lot of our sports talk, with or without the guests, and also offer our perspective, especially if it involves the Asian American community or Asian American athletes.
Absolutely. Well, let's get to our first subject, Stephen. The first subject of the year. What would you like to talk about? We have a couple of things. Let's go with the NFL Week 17 review.
This is actually, we'll start with the tepid apology.
Okay, let's go with the tepid apology.
Something that was unfortunately dominated the headlines over the weekend.
Yes. If you remember on Sunday, when the Carolina Panthers hosted the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, David Tepper, who has been, we've discussed him on this program before. If you don't know who he is the owner of the Carolina Panthers and also the Charlotte MLS
FC, Charlotte FC, yes.
Charlotte FC MLS franchise. And both franchises, since he took over, have not done very well. They've been pretty much on the bottom of the barrel, and he's fired coaches left and right on both franchises. And of course, that's what happened again earlier this year with the Panthers. If you see him there in the midst, and I don't know what he's done in his
Right
career.
here. Right here. This guy right here. He has a cup right here.
Yeah, do a full screen if you can, Steven. If you can get that full screen so we can see that. And go ahead and play it from the beginning.
Yeah, okay. Now this one does not have a sound, and I don't think this one ever had any sound.
That's okay. But then you see him throw that cup. You see him with the forward motion throwing his cup and then throwing.
And a fan just tried to jump out of the window and try to confront him there.
Yeah. And this is not a behavior of an owner. Okay. We saw the NFL,
this gentleman right here.
Yeah. And I don't care what if the fan was saying something or taunting him or doing. You just don't throw liquid or water or whatever that was in the cup at a fan. That is not the behavior of an owner. Granted, you may be angry about your team. You have the right to be angry about your team's performance, but you don't throw water on fans sitting in front of you. This is not the behavior of becoming of an owner. Now, we've seen the NFL. They got rid of Daniel Snyder of the Washington Commanders and forced him to sell his team earlier this year. I don't know what the NFL is going to do. The NFL has been silent about this whole thing. They've not said anything. David Tepper has, as you mentioned, Stephen, I didn't see it, but you go ahead and put out the statement that he put up. And it's really ridiculous. This is just something that, again, I don't know if we can get that full screen either, but you can go ahead and read it, Stephen. I can't see it, but go ahead and read it.
So this is basically that was released about 10 minutes ago or so.
Okay.
Literally everybody. This is Tom Pelissero from the NFL Network. The NFL today fined Carolina Panthers chairman David Tepper $300,000, which is only about like less than a 1% of his total net worth, which is said to be about 20 billions or so, for his unacceptable conduct in Jacksonville during Sunday's game. The league announced, and I think I'm going to try and find a statement from actual statement that David Tepper has written himself. Okay, here it is. This is from Ari Meirov from My Sports, 3013. I am deeply passionate about this team and regret my behavior on Sunday. I should have let NFL stadium security handle any issues that arose. I respect the NFL's code of conduct and accept the league's discipline for my behavior. Now, this is actually like we put it out there on the title, it's a tepid apology. Will it kill for somebody like him to even say, I'm sorry for God's sake?
That's all you have to say. That's all you have to say is that I'm sorry. I regret my actions. Never should have happened. And then people will forgive. We are a forgiving society. We'll let you off the hook for something like that because, maybe the fan, I don't think the fan, I'm not going to say the fan deserved it, but maybe the fan was saying something to him that he didn't like. Now, granted, still doesn't forgive the behavior of David Tepper and still never should have done that. But still, all you have to do is just say, hey, look, that's my fault. That's on me. I own my behavior. I'm very sorry. I never should have done it. And then you go on. And then you pay your fine. But instead, that apology that's as if to say, I'm sorry I got caught on camera throwing water or throwing liquid on a fan. That's basically what it is, Stephen. And the NFL has had to deal with Daniel Snyder and had to get him out. I don't know. Tepper came in. He's been there 5 years. I don't know what the NFL owners can do with him. He is not well liked in the Charlotte area. He's taken a franchise that has had some pretty decent postseason success until he got there. And then he's been impatient, firing coaches left and right. He's still going to be paying Frank Reich's contract for the next 5 years. He's a guy that doesn't want to listen. He doesn't hear the truth. His behavior during the press conference after he announced Frank Reich's firing was just absolutely awful. And here's a guy that really shouldn't be owning a team. He really should be selling the team and the MLS franchise, Charlotte FC. So, to be honest with you, Stephen, yeah, some people like to say, hey, I was successful in business. I could be successful in sports. This is a case where he's just not successful in sports and really should get the heck out.
Oh, without a doubt. And, I know there's a change.org petition, that's already out there to, make sure that David Tepper is, no longer the chairman and / owner of the Carolina Panthers. And I do remember, Panther fans were actually trying to organize a protest. I believe this was back in October or November, but for some reason that did not happen. That was canceled at the last moment. So the anger and the frustration is reaching a boiling point in Charlotte. So, it's almost I feel really bad for the Carolina fans. I have a different reason for, not liking the Carolina Panthers, and I was actually rooting for them throughout the year because, the Bears own the Carolina Panthers, 2024, first round draft pick that we got from the trade back in March of last year during the NFL Combine, which the Bears ended up fleecing Carolina, which we got a second round pick for, I believe, Tyreek Stevenson, the cornerback. Mm-hmm. And then the DJ Moore, that was a huge get for us. And then, of course, the 10th pick, the 9th pick, which the Bears traded down with Philadelphia. And then Philly got Jalen Carter, and the Bears ended up getting rookie right tackle Donnell Wright. And that was actually a very good trade for us. And, the loss against Jacksonville clinched the Chicago Bears, another number 1 overall pick, thanks to in part because of Carolina. And I'm not going to try and absolve Tepper. And I understand the frustration because you don't have a number 1 pick, and that belongs to Chicago Bears. And your quarterback Bryce Young, just has been god awful, not because he is, his players god awful, because he doesn't have anything to work with, the offensive tackle, and also the receivers that he has to throw to. There isn't anything, available, and the frustration, that you got yourself into, David Tepper apparently wanted to. Well, actually, excuse me, Frank Reich, the now fired head coach with the Panthers, wanted CJ Stroud, came in the NFL draft last year, but then Tepper overruled and forced the team to draft Bryce Young.
Yep.
And look how great CJ Stroud is playing. It's like basically a 2 franchise in a similar state. Houston has been a disaster because Jack Easterby, the former team chaplain turned team president, turned that franchise into a complete dumpster. And CJ Stroud came in with nothing to really work for, and team is only 1 more win away from winning the AFC South and going to the playoffs in his first year. So the frustration has been building up for David Tepper, but for a man of his caliber and his wealth and his accomplishments, again, I can't stress this enough, for him to not even apologize, sincerity to the NFL, and most importantly to the Carolina Panthers community, Charlotte community, and his own players, and for embarrassing them in a cushy, stupid PR statement that was hastily put together after he was told, I'm assuming by Roger Goodell over the phone, that you are getting fined $300,000 and now do something about it. It doesn't buy any remorse from me or anybody else. And I really, really feel my deepest sympathy to the Carolina Panthers. And I know some fans will be like, well, fuck you. You're a Bears fan. You're excited and you're happy. And I'm not going to hide that excitement. But one thing I feel sympathetic with the Carolina Panthers is that the Chicago Bears have a terrible ownership, but not to the level of David Tepper. So I'll just leave it there.
Yeah. Let's just put it this way. David Tepper he's the latest of many embarrassments as owners in the National Football League. Daniel Snyder was the one, and I'm sure the NFL is very happy to be rid of him. But now you have a guy in the Carolinas who, first of all, had a potential to have a very nice development in Rock Hill, South Carolina. He
Mhm.
rejected that. And now, Bank of America Stadium is a fine facility, but still needs to be updated. It's the Panthers' original home, and it's a situation right now where I have to say that the the um, the Panthers fans, they deserve much better. They deserve to. They deserve. This is a fan base. They came, I believe they came in around 1996. Stephen, I think that's when they came
No,
in.
95 with Jacksonville.
Jacksonville Jaguars. They have been a very loyal fan base. Like I said, they've had some success in the postseason. They went to a Super Bowl against the New England Patriots, if you remember that. They had an opportunity to win that Super Bowl, if you remember that as well, against Tom Brady.
Right.
But still, here's a situation where they've fallen to rock bottom. You're hoping that maybe I don't think David Tepper has any self-awareness. I don't think he cares. I don't think that he even thinks about PR or any type of doing anything for the community, because I haven't seen it. Um, the Carolina Panthers deserve a much better owner. Hopefully, he will sell sooner than later, because they can't have this type of behavior from an owner. They've had Daniel Snyder, and as we mentioned, they finally managed to get rid of him after a lot of headaches and him threatening to unearth dirt on the National Football League and Roger Goodell. He finally managed to get out and sell his team earlier this season. We'll have to wait and see if the NFL decides to force or put pressure on David Tepper to sell the team, because he's done literally he's done nothing for that franchise and for the Charlotte FC too, Stephen, on a total embarrassment, and for an area that is one of the fastest growing areas in the metropolitan areas in the United States, and deserves good sports teams. You going back to the tradition of the college basketball and Tobacco Road there, Stephen. I'm sure I don't know if you've been there. I've been there, down to that area. It's a beautiful area. It's a wonderful area. I've had good friends down there. I've been on the radio many times down there with the voice of the Carolina Hurricanes, Mike Maniscalco. He when he used to host a morning radio show down there in Raleigh. Good man, good people down there. And I really, really hope that the Carolina Panthers can turn this around, because this is just ridiculous.
No, I've been to Charlotte a couple of times on a personal and on a business last summer. It's a very nice area. People know that the Bank of America is headquartered in that region. It's a huge economic driver. It has the naming rights to the Panthers Stadium, and I don't think certainly Bank of America will do nothing about this, because obviously it's out of their control, and it certainly has nothing to do with them. But if you have business leaders, who band them together and decide to, stand up against the, the minions, no matter how small and how, maybe lack. The economic power, if they gather enough and stand up against the likes of the Teppers of the world, eventually they're going to have to start taking notice right now. So and for Carolina, you posted what's next for Carolina. I mean, they have they have no head coach. And the man that was standing on that photo when David Tepper threw the damn water bottle in a white shirt, that's Scott Federer, the embattled general manager of the Carolina Panthers. And, he just stood there and pretended like he saw nothing, which is even more pathetic for a guy like Federer. It goes to show that David Tepper is basically surrounding himself with a bunch of yes men and yes women as well. So, I don't know if any head coaching candidate would be even interested. And I understand it's one of 32 jobs. There's no question about that. And somebody will definitely take that job. But the quality of the candidate will be significantly not as high as the other jobs that will likely to be become available. So Carolina is in a purgatory, unfortunately, as long as David Tepper owns, because he will continue to act like he is the executioner, he's the the prosecutor, executioner, all in one, and he is just going to make life miserable for the what is left of the Carolina Panthers and their fan base.
Right. And let's just hope that, and as we wrap up this subject, Stephen, let's just hope that something can be done. I mean, the NFL finally managed to get rid of Daniel Snyder. It took a long time for them to do so. I don't know what they can do about David Tepper at this point. But if they can if enough owners put enough pressure on him, perhaps they can force him to sell, and he can make his money and get out and enjoy it. And in the meantime, the Carolina fan base deserves a whole lot better than what they've been getting in the last 5 years under David Tepper's ownership, because this is a proud franchise, and right now they're in the toilet and they need to get out of it. And
absolutely, yeah. And the NFL really need to get their act together, because it took them 20 plus years to finally get rid of Dan Snyder.
Yeah,
and then you still have owners like, excuse me, Jim Irsay, who has had addiction, and I'm not pointing out addiction being a bad thing, but Jim Irsay has shown to have a tendency to act a little bit weird here and there. We also have Jerry Jones, who's had acted on his own best interest pretty much his entire tenure as an NFL owner. And I understand sports owners are, different kind of different breed of people. Certainly either those who've inherited the franchise or those who've made billions like David Tepper, legally or even illegally in some cases. Certainly they live in their own island, and I understand. But if the NFL is dead serious about, cleaning up their own act, and, the owners who are, acting out of their own interests, and in certainly David Tepper's case, embarrass their 31 other owners, there has to be a price to pay. And unfortunately, the $300,000 is a chump change based on what he released in the statement. It really changes nothing about his perception. It just made it a lot worse for him and the NFL.
Right, and it's something, of course, we'll keep an eye on. It's something that we at the A team will call out as usual on the bad behavior, and we'll see what happens. All right, let's head on next to the NFL Week 17 review. And Stephen, let's start with both of our teams, the Chicago Bears and the Cleveland Browns. Both coming out and having good performances. And again, Stephen, we talked a bit about this 2 weeks ago. I'll start with you first, because we'll start with you because you're the big Bears fan in the room, and I'll talk about my Browns a little bit later. But the Bears, again, is Matt Eberflus saving his job with this performance?
Yeah, I have a mixed feeling about this, to be honest with you. But, I understand the case for keeping him. But the biggest problem that I've always had with Eberflus, whenever I listen to him, is that he's always thrown players under the bus because of the so-called lack of execution. And whenever a coach blames lacks of execution, he's putting it on the players. He's just blaming on the players. And my counter argument is that if a coach or coaches blame players' execution, lack of execution, what are you doing as a head coach? What are you doing this entire season? And even before that, doing the OTAs, the mini camps and the training camps that led to this point. Why are you throwing the players under the bus all of a sudden now? And this is your second year as a head coach. You had more than enough time to prepare for this season. And unfortunately, the Bears started the year 0-4, including a bad game in which they blew a 28-7 lead against the Denver Broncos, who gave up, if you remember, 70 points against the Miami Dolphins the week before. And then suddenly the Bears started to, win games here and there. But if you look at the teams and the quarterbacks that they've, beaten, it's really nothing to be proud of. And the problem is we're going to run back with Matt Eberflus. And we saw the game, the Browns game. You and I can, of course. That was a really, really disappointing loss. The Bears harassed Joe Flacco, who came off the couch a couple of weeks ago, and then made him look like an old pro. We harassed him, we sacked him, we picked him off a couple of times, and we even picked off and returned for a touchdown. We had a double-digit lead entering the game in the fourth quarter, and just like they did against the Denver Broncos and the Detroit Lions, a couple of weeks before in November, we blew the lead because of his conservative, coward coaching, and not to mention a terrible offensive game plan by Luke Getsy. And I don't like the idea of running back just because a coach managed to keep his locker together after a 3-8 record, and not losing the locker room. That's a bare minimum in my opinion. And I don't want Matt Eberflus to think that the Bears coaching is something that is some sort of a training ground for a first-time head coach to get better. Because in my opinion, in the words of Maya Angelou, when someone shows you who they are the first time, when somebody show who they are, believe it the first time. I believe that's the similar quote there. Mm-hmm. And I've seen more than enough, and I've listened to his press conferences. I've listened to Matt Eberflus' show on ESPN Chicago the day after the Bears wins and losses, and just to listen to him say, and I just don't find a strong leader in him, in my opinion,
Right. And I will say this. I'll just quickly say that your Bears should have beaten us.
Yes.
On the last throw of the game, which was a Hail Mary.
I remember.
The Browns did the right thing by knocking it down, but it got intercepted. But your guy was right there, ready to catch.
Yeah,
the ball.
Darnell Mooney.
He was there. He's had
a rough season. He really had a rough season. He dropped the pass. He failed a block on the 4th and 1 play, and then he had that ball on the Hail Mary, and then he bobbled it and just somehow pushed the ball back away, and then that was picked off, and then that was the ball game. And I thought, okay, that was more than enough. That should be the final straw for Matt Eberflus. But if you think about it, if you're, general manager Ryan Poles, who, by the way, shares the same agent with Matt Eberflus, you want to make that trade for Montez Sweat if you were going to fire the guy, and certainly, when the trade was announced and, Matt Eberflus was under the gun, he offered a, effusive support and praise for Matt Eberflus, and I understand. I was like, well, what was he going to say? Was he going to throw the coach under the bus after a trade? No, but now it is certainly becoming a reality that Matt Eberflus is going to be back, and I'm really, really worried that if he has learned anything from this past year, where the preparation or lack thereof, that led to an 0-4 start, blowing 3 double-digit lead in the fourth quarter, is somehow being washed. And if we run it back and have a same problem a year from now, you have a general manager who has the first overall pick again from Carolina Panthers, not ours, and have a decision to make between Justin Fields as the quarterback or Caleb Williams / Drake May or whoever's whoever they like in the 2024 NFL draft as the starting quarterback. But it makes no sense if you bring back a head coach who continues to blow leads and is somewhat overmatched and somehow becomes very, very conservative with his game calling, whether it's on both offense and defense. I think if you're going to bring back Matt Eberflus, you better stick with Justin Fields and build around him.
Yes.
But if you have a chance to upgrade the head coach, I want them to pursue a different head coach. I want somebody with a maybe. I know Jim Harbaugh's name is linked because he was a former Bears, quarterback. But I think the rocky relationship between him and Kevin Warren, the team president, former Big Ten commissioner, who both were odds, obviously, during 2020 COVID season, will not probably take the job anyway. But if there's an opportunity to hire somebody who is, maybe younger and has a more, open offensive mind, I would rather see them pursue that coach than run it back with Matt Eberflus and then having to have him on the hot seat in 2024.
Right. Well, I gotta say that I was surprised by the Bears performing well over the last couple of games, thinking that maybe Matt Eberflus is going to maybe return. And of course, I did share a video with you earlier from last week from NFL Network, in which Peter Schrager mentioning that there was an outside chance that the Bears could have made the playoffs. Of course, that's not the case now. They have been officially eliminated now. But the fact is that there was an outside chance for them. But I know that the Bears fans were probably being realistic, saying, "Look, it's going to be too many things had to happen, and it just didn't fall that way." But the fact is that right now, the Bears, with their wins in the last couple of weeks, since the Browns and Bears have faced off, their draft position, you still have the Carolina Panthers pick, so that's still some hope there. We'll have to wait and see what exactly happens and see where they fare and how they do, because sometimes, Stephen, as you well know, winning hides a lot of problems. And if, let's say, the Bears win out for the rest of the season and win their final game, I think they're playing Green Bay. They're playing Green Bay on CBS. Yes. At 4:25. Tim Nance is going to be calling that game, by the way.
It's our Super Bowl for this year. This is our Super Bowl.
Even if they win, even if your Bears win, it's going to hide a lot of problems. And there, people will say, "Hey, look, the Bears, won 3 straight games to finish the season. This is going to looks great." But really, to be honest with you, it's not like the same when the Detroit Lions, when they defeated the Green Bay Packers in their final game on Sunday night last year. You knew that the Detroit Lions were on an upward slope. I don't think you have that same optimism right now about the Bears, thinking that they're on an upward slope for next season. What is your thinking on that?
Well, there's a similarity, certainly. If we knock the Packers this Sunday, we eliminate from the playoffs, and the Bears start the season and end the season with the Packers. And when we begin the year, the Bears were completely unprepared, was sloppy, and lost 38-20.
Right,
and that really set the tone for where we are as a team. And the 3 double-digit blown leads in the fourth quarter, of course. That was also, I think, was a telling story. We had a defensive coordinator who abruptly resigned under a very suspicious circumstances. Immediately after that Packers game, we also had a running backs coach who was fired after multiple human resources violations. Those have to account for something, because when you're a head coach and you hire those people, that's on you. You can't inconveniently ignore those and say, well, that's what they did, out of when I'm not supervising them, or it's not my responsibility. No, you're the one who hired those people. You have to hold them accountable. And if a head coach doesn't hold himself accountable, that's what happens when you have a culture of lack of accountability, when you're always pointing a finger and blaming players on the execution side. And then you have coaches like defensive coordinator Alan Williams and running back David Walker, who was fired, on a multiple levels of violations. That's not a good look on you as a team leader. So that has to also account for something. And I'm hoping that Ryan Poles and team president Kevin Warren are thinking about that as a one of the reasons to why move away from Matt Eberflus and his entire coaching staff, and make sure that if you have a better younger candidate out there who can elevate the franchise, especially the offensive side, do it. There is nothing that's making you from stopping to improve the organization or improve the team. Improving the team doesn't necessarily mean signing free agents and trading and drafting. It also has to include a coaching staff who can elevate the players to a next level. And I don't know if Matt Eberflus's leadership skills is going to help you do that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, 100%. And like I said, it's going to. Right now, I have a feeling, Stephen, that let's say the Bears defeat the Packers. There's going to be a lot of talk that, and as you mentioned, there's going to be saying, "Hey, the Detroit Lions defeated the Packers in the last game of the season on national television. They did the same. The Bears did the same in knocking out the Packers of the playoffs this season. Maybe there's similarities, but as you mentioned, there are a lot of things that the Bears need to do. Detroit has
similarities between the Lions and the Bears. Bears from Lions from last year, the Bears from this year. They do have talent. They have a GM that is making the right moves and is in sync with the head coach. I think that there's that similarity in that regard. Depending on the outcome, if the Bears beat the Packers and finally put a hex in the Packers' dominance, at least for this year, I feel great. But if the Bears go out there and lay an egg against the Packers in Green Bay, much like they did in Week 1, the season opener, then I think this offseason will a lot of us, myself included, will feel really, really angry and feel stupid about the whole 2023 season and how we blew so much opportunities.
Right. So let's quickly go over to the Browns on the opposite end of the spectrum. A lot of optimism here. They defeated the Jets on the final Thursday night football game of the season. Them really good too. It was good to see. Joe Flacco threw again. He threw for like 296 yards in the first half, and it's now the 5th straight week that he's thrown for 300 yards. I got to say, there's a lot of optimism. The Browns are going to be facing a eliminated Cincinnati Bengals team. The Bengals were eliminated. You know how pessimistic I was earlier this season after seeing so many injuries, problems with the quarterbacking. I have to say this. If Joe Flacco, I feel very strange about this because I've hated Joe Flacco because he was the Baltimore Ravens quarterback that killed my Browns. He always seemed to find a way to defeat my Browns.
Yeah.
But now that he is the quarterback for my team, I have to say this. If he is not the quarterback in Week 1 next season, I will rip up all my Browns jerseys and all my Browns fandom because right now that's how much faith I have in Joe Flacco. I really have. He's a veteran quarterback. He's done a really great job finding receivers. He and David Njoku have found a really good rhythm with each other. We have Myles Garrett doing a fantastic job on the defense. I think this is a team that no one really wants to. I'm a little bit. My heart is in my chest here. It's really strange for me to say, but I don't think any team wants to face the Cleveland Browns in the playoffs right now. I would love to see this team make a deep run. We'll have to wait and see on that one. But to know that my Browns are going to be playing in mid-January, that's just a great feeling to have. And I got to say that right now, Kevin Stefanski, who I've had my own problems with over the years, I have to say that having to deal with 4 quarterbacks this season, having to deal with so many injuries, he has to be considered a one of the leading candidates for Coach of the Year for the 2023 season. What do you think about that, Stephen?
No, I think Stefanski has done an excellent job keeping the team together despite going through so many different quarterbacks. Um, and then getting Joe Flacco off the couch and then him to look like a player from 10 years ago, at least, and playing at a high level. It's just simply amazing. And that, at the same time, as a Bears fan who saw the, Joe Flacco came to life in the fourth quarter, thanks to another defensive a meltdown. It was just shocking and also amazing at the same time. Your defense is legit. For all the injuries and stuff that you had to go through this year, it is simply amazing that you guys have won this many games.
It really is.
It really is, and certainly, Baltimore won the division at this point, but they have the top seed now. But I think what the Browns did this year, they should absolutely feel nothing to be ashamed of, and it will be very interesting to see how far, as a wild card, whoever they play, which team. Certainly, they're going to be road warriors pretty much the entire playoffs
all the time. Yep, they're going to be. I think they're going to. Right now, they're the 5th seed, and if they can defeat the Bengals, they'll stay the 5th seed. I would think that they would probably be taking on the 3rd. They would probably have to go to Kansas. I think if I know my seeding, if Kansas City is the 3rd seed, I think they would be taking on
the 6th seed, right, or the 6th seed.
I think right now they're the 5th seed. But
okay, so they'll probably face the lowest of the 4 division winners. So that would be the AFC South. Somebody from the AFC South. Yeah, the Houston, Jacksonville, or Indianapolis. Whoever wins the AFC South, you'll have probably a better shot at beating those teams. Record-wise, certainly, nothing to sneeze at, but obviously, it's a long. It's a road less travel, going to start with the somebody number 4 seed of all the division winners, and then continue to make that road. But I think Browns definitely have a shot at maybe going deep. And once you get to the playoffs, it's anybody's game. It's 0-0, 0-0 record. So certainly the team with the top seed doesn't necessarily, mean that they are they're going to automatically get to the Super Bowl nowadays. Certainly, it hasn't been that way in recent years. The wild card teams certainly have have the luxury of continuing to keep that momentum going, playing. Of course, if you have a lot of injuries, that's a different story. But I'm very curious to see how far your Browns go. Depending on the matchup wise, and if Joe Flacco can keep the magic going, and if he does, as I wrote on the bottom of the screen here, if they bring back Joe Flacco in 2024, and I do believe they better bring him back, after what he did this past year, certainly, maybe 1-year contract and maybe have him as a backup behind Deshaun Watson, maybe he can offer be a positive influence on Watson. We all know the tumultuous stuff that he went through while he was in Houston, and even his time in Cleveland has been just a lot of disappointments, largely due to the injuries. So I'm sure Joe Flacco will be brought back, and if Watson falters once again due to injuries, or basically Stefanski has had enough and decided to bench Watson in favor of Flacco next year, I think the Browns are going to be in good hands, and the Browns must do everything they can to bring back Joe Flacco next year at least as a number 2 quarterback to start the year.
Right, 100%. So I have a lot of optimism going into it. I'm not used to this, Stephen. I'm not used to being optimistic as a Browns fan. I'm used to being pessimistic as you are as a Bears fan. But I'm right now feeling very good about going into the playoffs and having having my team playing right now, knowing that they have a playoff game in Wild Card Weekend, and if they have to take on someone from the AFC South, they have a very good shot at going on and getting at least a divisional weekend. I think that that's how optimistic I am. Of course, the last time I was optimistic this season, the Browns lost, so I have to be very careful about my optimism. But that's where we are at this point. But quickly, let's go over some other things. We have a lot of the Week 18 schedule. Stephen is going to be. We have 2 games on ABC and ESPN on Saturday. One of them will involve the Houston Texans as well in that battle for the top spot in the AFC South. They'll be taking on the Indianapolis Colts. That'll be the primetime game. And then on Sunday, you have the game 272, which will be the final game of the regular season. That will be for the AFC East as the Buffalo Bills travel down to Miami. I'm sure that will be shown on Hard Knocks. If you've been watching that, that's been a great edition, a very, very entertaining edition of Hard Knocks in season with the Miami Dolphins. Great stuff. The NFL Films putting that together. Great stuff there with Tua Tagovailoa and also
Mike McDaniel. Yeah,
Mike McDaniel's been showing some great stuff there. It's been very entertaining to watch. I'm sure that will be chronicled the next week on Hard Knocks, and of course other matchups as well.
The Cowboys can clinch the NFC East with a win over the Commanders.
Yep.
The Eagles really laid the egg over last Sunday against the Arizona Cardinals in a horrendous match.
Oh, that defense can't stop anybody right now. I would not be surprised, Stephen, to see the Eagles. They're going to go to the playoffs, but I would not be surprised if they're 1-0 in the wild card weekend, because as much as that offense can score, and we've seen it, they can score. That defense can't stop anybody, and the Dallas Cowboys exposed them right before Thanksgiving, and I really have a feeling, to be honest with you, that whoever they play, it's going to be a quality team that they play on the road on Wild Card Weekend. I would not be surprised to see the Eagles knocked out in the first round and not continue, because I think they're playing the Giants. They are playing the Giants.
And on the road, yes.
Yeah, that'll be on CBS. Iron Eagle will be calling that with Charles Davis. I just don't have any. They'll probably beat the Giants because the Giants just aren't a good team. But I'll be honest. That might be a track meet, because the Eagles defense can't stop anybody.
Yeah, that's true. I know Eagles fans have been really, really hard on Eagles and Nick Sirianni the entire season. When I was out in New Jersey, Philadelphia area for work, pretty much for a couple of months this year. So listening to WIP 94.1, the Eagles flagship station, the people are very, very vocal, and they have been very, very angry towards that coaching staff and the organization. Lord knows if Nick Sirianni is going to survive this. There might be a possibility that there are people. There was a rumor that Jalen Hurts is now they have questions about him. I know they moved on from Carson Wentz after they gave him a big contract. So this is a franchise that has had to move on, made some tough decisions, and took a hit, and then eventually bounced back. So I don't think Jalen Hurts is going to be moved, but I find these conversations really, really interesting. That it's once again the conversations that took place with Carson Wentz is now happening with Jalen Hurts, and history could be repeating itself, Ken.
Yeah, absolutely. And one other thing too, we'll talk about Kansas City. They survived their game against Cincinnati. They pretty much have locked in the 3 seed. They're taking, I believe, are they playing the Raiders, or no? They're playing the Chargers on Sunday in the late slot. That's going to be also on CBS. It's a regional game in the 4:25 window, in the late window. Kansas City will host a game, a playoff game on Wild Card Weekend, and most likely have to go on the road in divisional weekend. It's first time in the history of the career of Patrick Mahomes that he's going to have to play a road game. We all know how great he is, but again, we'll talk quickly about a guy you know very well, and Matt Nagy, the offensive coordinator of the Kansas City Chiefs. Granted, the Kansas City Chiefs receivers, he can't catch the balls for them, but they're unimaginable. There's some unimaginative play calling. Now, of course, they had Eric Bieniemy, who was their offensive coordinator through their glory years. They rehired Andy Reid, hired Matt Nagy because he's familiar with Nagy before. He was a coach under Reid at one time. But to be honest with you, there's some unimaginative play calling, and I know that you've seen it before with the Chicago Bears.
Right, and then I've seen it here in Kansas City, where I'm currently residing, and the fans are not exactly enamored, with Nagy's play calling either. I've been hearing it a lot on the local radio stations out here too, and they were talking about maybe paring down the play call, which is something that he did with Mitchell Trubisky, when he was a head coach. So, to think that Patrick Mahomes is a shell of himself, even though he has much more, yardage than, MVP frontrunner Lamar Jackson. But you can tell it's just something is really, really off with this Chiefs team. You've seen, Mahomes being vocal and angry. We saw him melt down against the Buffalo Bills a couple of weeks ago when Kadarius Toney was clearly offside. And then on Christmas Day, I saw the game on television. The Raiders really dominated the Chiefs all over the field. Travis Kelce threw the helmet on the sideline, and Andy Reid had to get him in on his face and tell him to, get his act together, for the lack of better terms, I guess. But there's something wrong with this Chiefs team. Maybe we're probably I'm not saying that the dynasty is over, but this is probably where Andy Reid is likely going to have to make a coaching change or two, either on offense or defense. I think defense is really what kept this Chiefs afloat this year. Steve Spagnuolo, the DC,
he's fine.
As the DC has done a great job. I think offensively you might have to probably look at probably blaming and firing Matt Nagy, maybe a receivers coach and an offensive line coach, to get somebody new, to get the new system, and maybe, I expect several players, leaving as well, because Chiefs have to, keep the offense probably going, and probably Chris Jones, the All-Pro defensive tackle, is probably gone after holding out this offseason. I don't think the Chiefs really. Kadarius Toney, unfortunately, he probably and MVS, Valdez Scantling, he's dropped so many passes. I think he probably didn't get any gifts or Christmas cards from Pat Mahomes himself. So I think there's going to be a lot of changes in the Kansas City. So this could be it for Chiefs. Under their current format. I should say the way the team is constructed, I think you're going to see a lot of changes in the offseason, no matter what happens with the Kansas City Chiefs.
Right. Let's quickly move over to yesterday's great college playoff semifinals, which happened yesterday, Stephen. The Rose Bowl, Michigan and Alabama went back and forth. Fantastic game. And then Washington tried to give the game away against Texas last night, and the game was very late. For those of us in the East and Central time zones, at least, I had the day off, so it was fine with me. But for people who had to go back to work today, the game ended almost at about 12:50 a.m. Eastern time, which is just ridiculous. And next year we're going to see something like that, similarly, because the quarterfinals. I believe it's the Fiesta Bowl that's going to be part of the quarterfinals, followed by the Rose, and then going to the Sugar. the Rose Bowl likes to have a 2:00 Pacific time start, so they can have the sundown and have that beautiful vista in Pasadena to be seen on television. ESPN is going to have all the games. One person said to me on Twitter, "Hey, why don't we have some overlap here?" I go, "Well, that's not going to happen as long as the ESPN has control. They're not going to have, especially with the megacast, they don't want to have other games start. Um, let They're not going to put a game on ESPN2 and start it. They're going to wait until all the games are finished and then start and have them kick off like it was the case last night with the Rose Bowl. The Sugar Bowl was to start at 8:45 Eastern time, but because the Michigan Alabama went to overtime, and because they're obligated to show the trophy ceremony, the Sugar Bowl didn't start until after 9:00, about 9:01 p.m. So anyway, two very fantastic games, fun to watch. Michigan finally got over the hump after its horrific showing last year against Georgia. This year, finally coming in and showing that they are worthy of playing with the SEC. Granted, Alabama's not as great as they were in previous years. This is Nick Saban's one of his best coaching jobs, but Alabama still had a chance to win. They were stopped on an overtime on a low snap, and they were stopped right at the goal line, right before the goal line. But Michigan got the job done, and now we'll play Washington. And ironically, Stephen, here's two teams that are going to be facing each other next year in the Big Ten, week 6, and that's going to be out in Seattle. So whoever has that game, either Fox, NBC, or CBS, they're going to be licking their chops at that fantastic matchup. That's going to be in the regular season a rematch of the college football playoff championship. So that'll be fun. But your thoughts on the games yesterday?
Well, the Rose Bowl, I strongly felt that whoever won that Rose Bowl game would be the as an inside track to winning the national championship, and it was a physical battle. It was really not a shootout that not that anybody was expecting, but it really lived up to its billing of in the game in the trenches. And Michigan's defense really gave Jalen Milroe a lot of trouble. Now, it didn't help that he held onto the ball a little bit. And then the Alabama's offensive line has been a massive sore spot, especially the center, who can't snap the ball properly.
They had trouble all day. Yep.
Yeah. So, Michigan really dominated the game. Their run game was, wasn't spectacular, but they got the job done, especially Blake Corum, fighting through, Alabama defenders and scoring, a couple of touchdowns, even the one in overtime where he managed to power himself despite getting tackled by Alabama players. So you knew that it was Michigan's night. It was unfortunate because throughout the year, Alabama had a real quarterback problem. They had the Jalen Milroe, who got benched by I forgot the name of the player for Alabama, who replaced Milroe, that eventually became a lacrosse player, I believe. Alabama took their finally found its rhythm late in the season. They dominated Georgia and defeated Georgia, knocked them out of the playoffs after they beat them in the SEC championship. But for I think Nick Saban, this has to be a very, very trying year for him. But hopefully next year, in 2024 with the with the transfer portal, I'm sure they're going to target a lot of offensive linemen. They're going to have to probably rebuild that offensive line. I don't know if offensive coordinator Tommy Rees is expected to be back. His play calling was really, really shaky at times this season, and I'm sure there are a lot of Alabama fans who are not happy with the guy, who has no ties with the with the program or SEC in that matter. Bill O'Brien, the former OC with the Alabama, who took a lot of flack when Jalen Milroe said that it was O'Brien who said that he shouldn't be a quarterback, which obviously raised a lot of stink about maybe African American quarterbacks not given a proper chance. And O'Brien, who's now with New England, is probably going to be available at the end of the season. But with Jalen Milroe as a quarterback, I don't know if Alabama's going to ruffle the chemistry by bringing in a guy who doesn't believe Milroe will be an OC. I'm sorry, Milroe should be a quarterback. So that's going to be an interesting decision that Nick Saban has. And Nick Saban, he has to make a decision. How long does he want to coach?
Right. Right.
I'm sure that his job is secure for the rest of his life for what he has done to that Alabama football program, because we all know how bad of a program it was before he took over.
Right.
So
right.
I'm very curious to see if Nick Saban, I don't think he's going to announce his retirement, but I'm very curious to see how much does, a loss like this does to Nick Saban. Does he feel invigorated and want to come back for more next year? Or does he feel like the end is near and that, maybe there's part of him that realizes that his end is near and that he's going to try and make the most out of it. But with the NILs, taking over college world,
right.
It's not going to be easy for him, because you're going to get some players, but at the same time you're going to lose a lot of your star players. The 4-star, 5-star players that you recruited and beat out other top-notch programs. So it's a wild west of college football. The college football that we knew or that we've loved is gone after the end of the playoffs, because next year in 2024 it's going to be a whole lot different with the realignments and everything. So
right.
Very curious to see if this is it for Nick Saban and the Alabama program. Do they have it in them, or does Nick Saban is probably on his last leg as a head coach?
Right. Let's move on to the Sugar Bowl, and of course Washington and Texas. That went down to the last. Washington really had to, seemingly took control of this in the second half, Stephen. But then last minute, some strange play calling, and then some bad penalties allowed Texas to have a chance to win this game. And the final score was, of course, 37-31. But here was a chance of some bad an injury forced the timeout, and then they did a delay a game on a punt that they were going to do, and then they hit the returner, which got the ball even closer. So Texas had an opportunity on the last play of the game to score a winning touchdown, which fortunately for Washington was knocked away. But still, it should have gotten to that point, Stephen. But
No.
Felt that Washington was in control. Michael Penix, I think, raised his draft status with his game yet last night. He doesn't have a great flowing motion, but he gets the ball where it has to be. And I think that he is going to be a high draft pick come in April. He's a fun player to watch. He's a great leader. And I have a feeling Washington has to be, and I know Washington has a chip on its shoulder, knowing that they're to be the last Pac-12 champion ever, and likely, and I think they're gonna give Michigan a good fight. But I have a feeling that they have a chip on their shoulder, and I have a feeling that Michigan and Washington next Monday is going to be a very good game.
Yeah, it's kind of weird that the Big Ten and the Pac-10 team playing in Houston, which neither school has any ties to that region, of course. But Washington was lucky to get out of there, because the last 30, 20 seconds was just a nail biter. And Michael Penix Jr. was amazing, and as a lefty, when he throws the ball, there's this a weird long motion. I know some people might not like that motion, especially against the bigger and faster NFL players. But he was on the money yesterday, and his number one target, Rome Odunze, who I really like. As a Bears fan, I would love to see him in a uniform. If Marvin Harrison Jr. of Ohio State is not available because the Bears traded down so far in getting more draft capitals for their first overall selection. Rome Odunze and Michael Penix Jr. was on the money all night, along with Jalen Polk, who was a Texas Tech transfer, who also had a phenomenal game, scoring a couple of touchdowns himself. If it wasn't for those two bad ACL injuries, I think Michael Penix would be a surefire top 10. Now, because of that injuries and because he transferred during the COVID years and stuff like that, he's 24 years old and he's somewhat older at the beginning of next NFL season. So I don't know how the the NFL scouts and evaluators view that. I know Joe Burrow, when he came into the league, was about the same age, around 23. He turned 24 around in the middle of the season. So I think the medicals will play a huge role in Michael Penix's draft status. But I think yesterday's game certainly was an incredible performance with his deep ball accuracy. And I'm very curious to see how he and his trio of receivers, along with Jalen McMillan, who unfortunately had some injuries to deal with this year, but is a very, very talented player in his own right. Go up against a tough, physical Michigan defense. Washington offensive line, they did a good job of neutralizing Texas's, defense. They are a Joe Moore Award winner for the nation's top offensive line unit. It will be put to test against the Michigan's defense that sacked, I believe, Jalen Milroe 6 times yesterday. And, that will be a huge key. Whoever dominate that offensive line, the line of scrimmage. You have Michigan with J.J. McCarthy, who's not a flashy player, doesn't put up big numbers, but Jim Harbaugh raves him and loves him and has a full support of him. I'll be very curious to see what kind of battle we're going to see. Are we going to see a shootout, or are we going to see more of a slugfest like we saw with the Michigan and Alabama? And right now I'm kind of thinking, because with the Michigan, the way they're built, and certainly Jim Harbaugh's cheating scandal is dominating the headlines, and the possibility that this is going to be his final game before he gets any suspension, or maybe the wins from the last couple of years gets vacated and stuff like that. I have a feeling that this is going to be Michigan, Jim Harbaugh's final game. So I have a feeling Michigan might sneak out of this game in the national championship, Ken.
I'm going to agree with that. I'm going to say that Michigan is going to pull out the win next week, and it's something that you and I will talk about next Tuesday here on the AA team. So let's wrap things up. We've been on for about over an hour, so let's get off and get out while we can. Appreciate. Don't forget to follow Steven on X at Asian Sports Fan 1, and he is, as you can see on the crawl, is a contributor as well to Fansided's Bears coverage. And I can be found at Awful Announcing. I do the viewing picks every week, every day, and you can find that at Awful Announcing as well. Anything else you want to add, Steven?
Well, with the New Year's, certainly before the end of the year, another top baseball free agent signed. Yoshinobu Yamamoto joined the Dodgers, as was expected. Certainly. We've mentioned on our previous shows about Shohei Ohtani signing with the Dodgers and how that's going to impact the Dodgers and their ability to dominate the Asian market for years and years to come. And it turned out to be that way now. Certainly, Yamamoto and was allowed to be signed because Otani took the massive what do you call it, not the pay cut, but instead of the the $70 million, he got a deferred payment. Excuse me, he got a a contract that defers his salary, which he only gets to make $2 million for the next 10 years or so. So that allowed a top free agent like Yamamoto to come. It will be very interesting to see if the baseball finally starts to pick up, because there's still plenty of free agents out there, and the training, the spring training is probably about maybe less than a month away now. So
yep. But 8 weeks.
very expect. I'm curious to see if there's going to be some fury of signings. The Cubs in particular, my Cubs. I definitely need to see some big teams, big market teams start to act like a big market teams. The Cubs, they got great counsel, but that's pretty much it. So they really need to give counsel and his coaching staff some players to work with. So I'm very curious to see if there's going to be more signings between now and the beginning of the spring training camp.
Absolutely. We'll keep an eye on that, and that's something that's going to be coming up as the Hot Stove League heats up over the next few weeks. Well, that's going to do it for this edition of the AA team. Steven and I thank you for watching us, and as you see on the banner, join us every Tuesday on X and on YouTube for our live stream. We're always happy to have you join us, and we're happy that you joined us for our very first live stream of 2024, and we'll be back again next Tuesday, and we'll review Week 18. By that time, we'll know the NFL wildcard matchups and the schedule and the network. Don't forget, there'll be one game on Peacock, so make sure you have your Peacock subscription updated.
That's true.
And also, we will review the College Football Playoff National Championship game. And if David Tepper does anything bad, we will be on it as well. So thanks very much. Thanks for joining us once again. So we thank you for watching, and we will see you again next week right here on the AA team. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.